Hey everybody, I am back with another video. I wanted to discuss this before Morrowind came out. I realized I did Stamina Nightblade, I did Magicka Nightblade, Stamina Magicka Sorc, Magicka and Stamina DK, and Stamina Templar. And I have not touched Magicka Templar for a build or guide video. Realized I was missing that. Wanted to get this out before Morrowind to give you my information, my thoughts on the class, what I'm running when I go to PvP with this class, and then just overall thoughts in general before the next patch happens. So, before we dive into this, I want to preface this by stating that, I do think that currently this is the strongest class in the game. I think it's the most powerful in a PvP situation, especially in group play. Anywhere from a small group to a big group, Templars just magnify or make it, in some cases they make it impossible for your group to die, depending on how many of these you have in your group currently. And there's nothing a smaller group can do in some situations due to the amount of healing and amount of support that this class has. Now, with all of that being said, that doesn't make this class difficult to play. This doesn't make this like that. I mean, in some ways it is easy. In some ways, it's easy to survive because this is the easiest class to tank and, stay alive with. But to play it at a high level, you need to be very good. It's not easy to just run around and kill people on this class, because although it does have a lot of strengths in a group play situation, it has quite a few weaknesses in a solo situation, small scale situation, in general. So I want to preface that by stating, hey, yeah, if you hop onto a Magicka Templar, you're going to 1vx, you're going to group play, and you're going to do all this stuff. That's not true. You still have to know the class, you still have to be able to play well, and I can't tell you, how many people I see playing this class and just not playing it well at all. And there's a lot of adjustments, especially to this class coming next patch, that, if you don't do some of the stuff that I'm saying, you're going to get destroyed. And you're not going to be very happy, and you're going to be like, wow, they ruined my Templar. Well, they ruined some parts of the Templar that were extremely powerful, and if you're crutching on those things, then yes, you are going to get destroyed. But if you know this class well, it'll still be good next patch. It'll be really good at Battlegrounds. It's still going to have a bunch of utility, more utility than any other class in the game. So, yeah. Hopefully I explained myself well there. I'm not saying, if you're playing Magicka Templar, you're in easy mode, because it's not true. To play this at a high level, you need skill. But, there's a reason half the people in the game are running around in a Magicka Templar right now, because it's really easy to just not die and make people in your group not die. And people are really taking advantage of heavy armor and breath of life mechanics currently. But that's not all this class has to offer. And, want to dive into what I'm running and what other options you have, and then, how we're going to go forward in Battlegrounds. So let's get started. I am running, and again, this isn't a build video, this is going to be just my guide video on Magicka Templar, my thoughts with how this class currently is, and adjustments like what you can and can't run. I'm running 5 Seducer. I'm running 3 Body Seducer, double Sword Seducer, and then back bar defending weapon with a shield of Seducer and Impen. So I'm running Sword and Shield and dual wield, and then I'm running 3 Body Seducer, all Impen, and then I'm running 2 Grotdar currently. Now, personally, in my opinion, I think that Scoria is much better for a Templar. I love the burst damage of Scoria. You hit somebody with Entropy, you hit them with Vampire's Bane, they run away. They're not always in your Grotdar, but they're always at risk of getting hit really hard by Scoria. And as you know, we have Radiant Destruction or Radiant Oppression at our hands. If somebody far away gets hit with a Scoria, they get pulled out of stealth. All of a sudden they're at low health. Radiant, they're dead. I like Scoria a lot more. My problem is I do not have Impen Scoria, and with the other set I'm currently running, I need the Impen, so I'm wearing Grotdar. Grotdar is definitely not a bad choice. This hits really hard. This is a very, very strong. Sorry, let me put the other piece on. Grotdar is a very strong 2-piece set. You know, it does a bunch of damage. It's a big AoE around you. It works well, especially when you're getting focused outnumbered. You know, max magic is good, and then flame damage is good. It's a very good two-piece. I have both these in Impen, so that's why I'm wearing it. My other set I'm currently wearing is Amber Plasm. You don't have to run Amber Plasm. I was running Rattle Cage. Rattle Cage has its uses. Being able to wear a Rattle Cage and have another slot on your bar is very useful on a Magicka Templar. You know, because you have so many useful skills, it's nice to be able to take entropy off your bar and fill something else. But the 5-piece for this is very valuable, even as a Templar. Like, if you're block casting, obviously when you're blocking, you don't get stamina recovery, but we're going to be in misform sometimes, and when we're in misform, we get our stamina recovery back. So Amber Plasm works pretty well, in my opinion, on a Templar. You know, the crit obviously is very valuable, max magic and spell damage, that's very useful. But when we go into misform to avoid damage and kite around, it allows us to get some stamina back, so we can come back blocking, hitting Breath of Life when we're really focused, we can stay alive, we can be very tanky. I'm currently running 3 spell damage enchants, you know, because we are running Amber Plasm, we are running Seducer, which are more or less both recovery sets, so I'm running 3 spell damage. Next patch, I might still run the same thing. I think I'm going to incorporate Amber Plasm and Seducer, but currently, like the way it is, I'll probably have to fit 2 recovery, or like 1 recovery, 1 reduced cost, or maybe, you know, 2 recovery, 1 reduced cost. We'll see. But I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out, but I'm pretty sure this is pretty close to what I'm going to be running with some slight enchant changes. As far as the Mundus Stone, we're wearing the Atronach Mundus Stone, and then, you know, fully buffed up with a dead controller. We are running. Hold on, let me buff up with entropy. Those are our stats. So we have 2,600 weapon damage. We have 37,000 max magicka. We have 1,500 magicka recovery. 2,400 crit resist. Outside of our rune, we have 14,000 physical resistance. We're very tanky as a Templar. When we put our rune down, 20,000 physical resist, 22,000 spell on our back bar, 24,500 physical, 27 spell. The best races for a Templar, in my opinion, are Breton, High Elf, and Dark Elf. I mean, it makes sense, they're magic classes. Breton's probably the best in PvP. Well, it's definitely the best in PvP. Mine is currently a Dark Elf. I do play some PvE with this class. I just love the burst damage of dropping a shooting star on somebody with a Dark Elf. It's the most fun thing for me, so I'm running a Dark Elf. You get more stamina as a Dark Elf. You get decent magicka as a Dark Elf. You get more elemental damage, and I do want to incorporate some elemental stuff. So if I ever run Destro Ulti, if I run Shooting Star, if I run Wall of Elements, like if I run all these things, Vampire's Bane is buffed as a Dark Elf. Like all these fire things that a Templar can do are buffed as a Dark Elf. That's why I chose Dark Elf. 64 points into magicka. You know, we are wearing 5 heavy. We're running 2 heavy Grottar. We're running 3 heavy Scoria, and then we're wearing 2 light with our Amber Plasm. And as you saw, our crit resist is pretty high, 2,600. 39,000 magicka. Our magicka recovery is 1,500, but it's actually higher with the skills that we're running. Let's dive into the skills really quick, explain why we're doing what we're doing. So, first thing, Extended Ritual. Exalt in the sacred light of the AEDRIC, cleansing up to 5 harmful effects from yourself immediately, and healing you and nearby allies for 1326 health every 2 seconds for 24 seconds. Allies can also activate the Purify synergy, cleansing all harmful effects from themselves, and healing for an additional 6527 health. This is one of the most powerful Templar skills in the game. This skill is so extremely strong. You can use the other morph. I think the other morph is useless, to be honest. Like, the damage is nice for pulling Nightblades out of stealth, whatever, but with the amount of dots, with the amount of pressure we can provide to Nightblades, we don't need that. Like, purifying 5 harmful effects, getting major mending with this, allowing people to activate a synergy that heals them for a big chunk is very useful. This Purify, the amount of health that it gives, it can also proc Troll King. If we were running Troll King, for instance, like let's say we wanted to be a healer, all people have to do, you put a Purify down in the battlefield, and they drop below 60% health this patch, 50% next patch. the Purify will proc Troll King, and it will heal them to full. So this is a very strong skill. And purifying 5 harmful effects, so that's not even like, it's not just poison injection, it's not just dots, that is major defile, you know, when you get reduced healing. It's also, you know, when you get snared, when you can purify talons, you can purify the snare from talons, you can purify encase off of a sork, you can purify curse off of a sork. So you can avoid a lot of damage by just having purify. And I can't tell you how many people, like I'm running a few dot builds on a few of my classes, and half the people I run across in PvP, they're Templars, and they don't run Purify. They just sit here and they eat all my dots, and they rely on Breath of Life with the way it's currently working to stay alive. And those are the people that are going to not be happy next patch. So use your Purify. Purify is very useful. The minute you start taking a lot of harmful effects, Purify, get your major mending, get back to it. Next skill we're running is Breath of Life. You can run Honor the Dead if you're running more solo. Honor the Dead returns Magicka cost back, so it's a better way to sustain. This heals you and one other person. And the way it's currently working pre-Morrowind, if somebody's behind me and they're taking damage, I just can do this, I heal myself, and I heal them. And it's just a very easy button heal. This is getting adjusted to where it's going to be conal, meaning that only people in front of you can get impacted by Breath of Life. I think that's a great change. It makes Templar healing a little bit more difficult to do. It's not going to be as strong as it currently is, and I think it's a very good change. But this is still going to be the strongest heal in the game, even with the adjustments. And I think they're good adjustments. But we're running Breath of Life because, you know, we do play in a small group, so it is nice to be able to help your friends out. Elusive Mist. I'm a vampire with mine. You know, we get 10% magic and stamina recovery, which comes in handy with this build because we are running, you know, decent magicka and stamina recovery. So vampire works out. When you drop below 50% health, you take reduced damage. That also helps with the Templar. Helps to not get bursted. Like, it all works together. Elusive Mist works out very well with this. You know, if we're, like, let's say, like, we're getting beat on because a good group sees that we're a Templar, and they know, like, we have to take this guy out first, they're going to focus you. And you're sit here, and you can block cast Breath of Life, and if you've been in my other videos, you know what block casting is. Like, you see how I have that little shield up on me? That's me holding block. I can block cast Breath of Life. So I'm still holding block as I'm doing this. It's not, I don't think this should exist, but, you know, it's not my job to say that it should or shouldn't, just providing information. I can block Purify, I can block cast Purify, I can block cast Breath of Life, I can block cast my rune. So, like, when you're getting beat on by a bunch of people and you need to stay alive, you can literally just walk around and you can go like this. And eventually they're going to drain your stamina, and then what you could do is you can go into Mistform. And Mistform takes reduced damage. When you come out blocking, you Purify, you Breath of Life, you know, you put your rune down, you Mistform again, and, you know, you take the reduced damage, and you can, that's just basically how you can stay alive in a group situation as a Templar. You're very tanky with how bursty your heal is, and Mistform just works to allow you to be able to kite a little bit better, to get around a corner, to narrow the amount of people hitting you. Because you don't have built-in movement speed with this class. You have to build it in with sets, or you have to build it in with potions. And so this helps you in that regard, since you cannot avoid damage the way you can, like on a Stamina Nightblade or a Sork or whatever. Sorry, I'm taking a drink here. Other skills in the back bar, Channeled Focus. Now you can run the other focus, I think it's Rune Focus, where you take 8% reduced damage. That one is good as well. I like Channeled personally, because, you know, you can currently block cast. What this one does is it gives you 120 Magicka every half second, so that's 240 Magicka every second, which turns out to about 400, and it turns out to exactly 480 Magicka recovery. So if we put our rune down, it's not going to show on the tooltip, but this 1548 turns into 2,000 Magicka recovery with this setup. So we are running Seducer. We do have reduced cost. We have 1548 plus with this down. it gives us a lot more Magicka recovery. Now, the other cool part about this is our Magicka recovery does not come into play when we're in mist form. But we do get Magicka recovery when we have our rune down. So if I go into mist form, you'll see I'll get Magicka back if I'm around my rune. So that's the cool part about this rune, is you can go into mist form, and if you put this down first, you do get some Magicka back. So it makes you a little bit more tanky. I think it's, what is it? Hold on. Oh my gosh, this is just terrible. 8 seconds after leaving. So for 8 seconds, as long as you cross that, which is more than the duration of mist form, you're going to have this recovery. So oftentimes, like if I'm getting focused, I'm block casting Breath of Life, I put my rune down so I get increased resistances, and then I mist form away, and now I get some Magicka recovery back. It's not a lot, but it's better than what it would be. It's better than 0, and it does come in handy to stay alive a little bit longer, because sometimes all you need in a group as a Templar is to stay alive a little bit longer to wipe a group, and this is helping in that situation. As far as other skills go, Structured Entropy on our back bar gives you increased health. This is where we're going to get our major sorcery buff. Very, very powerful. Obviously, like this is how we're going to get our damage as a Templar, running like a DPS build. As far as our ultimate, we are currently running Shield Wall. I don't have this morphed yet, but I would morph this to Spell Wall. This is our oh fuck, I'm getting hit by a bunch of people, I just came around a corner ultimate. It's very cheap. Reflects all projectiles. It makes us even more tanky. We can purify snares, and we can get out. We can get around a corner. Automatically blocks all attacks at no cost. So this is a very strong ultimate, especially on a Templar or a DK in general. Since we can't avoid damage, we're going to take it. This allows us to avoid damage for at least 5 seconds, which is typically enough to, get in a situation to where we can be protected. Now, as far as our front bar skills go, this is going to be pretty typical. We're running Puncturing Sweeps. This is our DPS, our jabs. This used to be like the main DPS move for Templars. In my opinion, the way it currently is, this isn't as needed as it used to be. It's useful. The tooltip on mine aren't that high. I completely understand that, but it's really not needed with this character. Still nice to have. It gives you your increased crit. Wait, no, this one does not. I'm sorry. That's biting jabs. But it snares their movement speed is reduced. It also heals you. This is very good outnumbered. You start jabbing, you get heals. And it's your AoE DPS in front of you. It's still worth having on the bar, even if it's not as good as it used to be. I'm currently running Toppling Charge. If the enemy hit is casting, this is the main reason why. It's our gap closer. But if the enemy hit is casting, they are interrupted and set off balance for 5 seconds. Off balance gives you more damage. So if you see somebody hitting a Dark Flare, you Toppling Charge them. If you see somebody hard casting a frag, you Toppling Charge them and you interrupt them. Snipe Spammer, whatever. Like, we don't have a ton of movement speed. Having a gap closer to kind of get in and out of fights is very useful. It's not a needed skill. There are other ways you can build this, but that's what I'm currently running. This is a skill. It's a must on your bar. Purifying Light. Now, this is the Magicka form. Power of the Light is the stamina form. This is the strongest. Outside of Radiant Oppression, this is the strongest Magicka Templar skill in the game. Summon an expanding beam of pure sunlight to doom an enemy, deals 39-13 magic damage, not a ton right away, while also copying all their damage taken for 6 seconds and releasing 26% of it as an additional magic damage to them. So maximum copied damage, 22,000. It's a very, very strong damage ability. But on top of that, when the effect ends, a pool of sunlight remains attached to the enemy, healing you and nearby allies 2759 health every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So this is why it's high burst. It copies all the damage you do. So you put this down, and then you hit him with an ultimate, and it copies all the damage, and you can get burst. And if you drop into low health, you hit him with Radiant. So this is your burst combo with this build. On top of it, this then heals you, and and nearby allies every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So it's 2759 health recovery every 2 seconds, or healing every 2 seconds. So when you combine that with the Purify, which, what does it say it is? 1326. So 1326 plus 2700, that's 4000. Cut it in half in PvP. That's 2000 health every 2 seconds as a Templar for just fighting next to your buddy. Like if you're fighting next to a Templar buddy and they drop their Purify and they put this down and then you hit with a Purifying Light. So you have this beam and then it's going to explode like what this is. Boom. And then you see this big circle. As long as you're in that area, you get health back. And so it's 2000 health every 2 seconds, which is just crazy. On top of Breath of Life, on top of, potentially other stuff like Troll King, Chokethorn, whatever. Like the healing is very, very powerful. And it copies all damage. So you hit with these jabs, I'm just jabbing unbuffed, but it's then going to blow up, it's going to do damage, and then you're going to heal everybody around you. And then if they take damage from everybody else, this is the main way you burst people down in a group play situation, is you put Purifying Light on them, everybody sees the beam, everybody sees this, and they go, oh wow, I'm going to focus this guy. So if you're the Templar in your group, you're the guy calling all the shots. You should be the guy pointing out who we're focusing with this skill. Because it's going to copy the damage that they're going to take, it's going to explode, and they're going to die. Very, very powerful skill. I would not take it off your bar, no matter what you're running. If you're running any sort of DPS. Radiant Oppression, this is still the strongest execute in the game. It's got huge range. Does a ton of damage. This is unbuffed for mine. It just melts people. If they get to low health, Radiant Oppression is the finisher that everybody wishes they could have. Very strong. And then finally, we're running Reflective Light. Now, you can run Vampire's Bane. I think outnumbered Reflective Light's better. It coincides well with our Purifying Light. Like this one lasts 6.5 seconds. Our Purifying Light lasts 6 seconds. So that's why I'm using it this way. You can put this on multiple people. It hits up to 3 people. Purifying Light you can put on multiple people. You can have multiple people take copied damage. Gives you more burst for your group. It gives you more healing for your group. So Vampire's Bane lasts a little longer. The dot tick is a little bit longer. This one also gives you Major Prophecy. Templars do 10% more crit damage. So Major Prophecy increases your crit to a point to where it gives you the extra 12%. So it's very useful for a Templar to have increased crit damage because they get more damage when they crit. So sorry. As far as skills you can mix and match out of here with, you can run Piercing Javelin or Binding Javelin in the Magicka form. That's going to get a buff next patch. It's very useful. You can put that in there over Toppling Charge. I like Toppling Charge because I like to be in there. I'm currently running Grothdar. If I was running more of a range build with Scoria like I'd want, maybe I'd put Piercing Javelin. Very good skill in general. Spear Shards, good group support utility skill. It no longer has the snare, but it does still hit hard. They're actually buffing Blazing Spear Morph next patch, I think by 30%, I think. So this can cause Burning Light, a little bit more burst damage, a little bit more dot damage when people are fighting you in quote-unquote in your house. Very, very strong skill, even despite the lack of the CC. So, very powerful. Then Sun Shield. Sun Shield isn't really useful unless you're a high health tank. Obviously, there's Blazing Shield builds that exist. I don't think it's super useful. It's not useful for this current build the way I'm running it. I don't like people just walking away from me when they realize I'm not doing any other damage unless they hit me. So, no point. Dark Flare is very useful. This is a very, very powerful skill. Sorry, 1 second. Put on my bar here. So what this does is this is one of the hardest hitting skills in the game, if not the hardest hitting. However, it does have a cast time, but it does provide Major Defile. and you can get your burst combos with this. So if you're playing in a group and you can stay kind of back, if you can stay back a little bit and not get interrupted, this is a very strong skill to just be raining down on people. It's very slow. If you see like how long it takes for this to hit, if I back up, it's a very slow skill to land. So people like dodge rolling Nightblades can avoid it and everything. But it's very useful against Templars because most Templars don't use Purify. The Major Defile is great. It boosts, it gives you burst. And on top of it, if you combine that with like a Javelin, you know, you Dark Flare, you Javelin, and then you Soul Assault, or you drop a Meteor. Like you drop a Meteor, you Javelin, then you Dark Flare. Or some sort of combination like that. You can have a lot of burst from range. Now, the problem with this is when you're in this little cast time, you can be interrupted, and then you can be set off balance. I don't like to run this skill when I'm running around by myself, or if I'm with like one more person, because they're going to see me as a Templar, they're going to be hitting me first anyways. This cast time gets me killed, so I don't run this skill. But if you're running like a 4 or 5 man group, and you're kind of like, you know, you're kind of running more of a healer role, and you're staying in the back, and you're doing like your what's going to be conal healing with Breath of Life in front of you, and you're behind people, you can then just rain down Dark Flares from range, and then you can Radiant. You know, you put your Purifying Light down, you hit your Dark Flare, and then you hit your Radiant, and then it's going to explode, and it's going to do quite a bit of damage. So, and it's going to reduce their healing. So it is a very powerful skill in a group play situation. Eclipse. Eclipse is also a very good skill. I don't currently have it morphed. I like running Unstable Core. Personally, like it times with my burst damage very well. So how I do this, like how my combination is, like let's say I'm running Rattle Cage and Seducer, I would take, you know, keep Toppling Charge on the bar, and then or take Toppling Charge off. But this is very good for lining up burst. You can see the tooltip on this is very good. This is basically the Templar Curse. Very, very powerful skill. Very useful. You know, as we can see, like Templars have a lot of utility the way it currently is. They can run their setups a bunch of different ways. That's great. Hopefully, other classes can get in line with, you know, what Templars and Sorks can do. But how you time your burst with this is you hit with your entropy, you hit with your that, you hit your. Sorry, I messed that up. I have to remember my buttons really quick. Okay. So if you hit with your entropy, you want to hit with your Unstable Core, you want to hit your Vampire's Bane, you want to hit your Purifying Light, and then you can hit with your ultimate. And then basically it's going to copy all that damage, and then all that stuff is basically going to go off at the exact same time if you do it right. So Vampire's Bane, Unstable Core, Purifying Light, and then if you watch, like everything will kind of explode at the same time. Oh, that wasn't very good. You know, I haven't done this in a while. My bad. But yeah, if you do it right, basically like the Unstable Core will go off before the there we go. So it's Vampire's Bane, Purifying Light, Unstable Core, and then you know you can do your other jabs, you can do your ultimate, and then basically all that explodes. You see those hit and explode at the exact same time. That's your burst as a Templar, and that's how you're going to kill people. Very good for range classes to time though. Like if you get that burst down correctly, your Reflective Light right here, that will proc Scoria, and that's why I like to run Scoria more than Grothdar, is because if you do it right, if you do this combination right, and then you go in there and you start jabbing, and then like Radiant, like this is all going to explode at the exact same time, and it's going to be so much burst damage that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in most situations that you don't have a CC that goes through block, because it's so much pressure. It's so much pressure to people for that combination. I'm not currently running Unstable Core because I like the topple. I like the knockdown, like when people are running away. So my current combo with this setup would be like this. So what I would do, you know, I'd hit with my entropy, hit with my Vampire's Bane, go like this, Toppling Charge in, knock them down. Now they have Grothdar on them. They're hit it with a bunch of stuff. Now that's going to go off. It's going to do a bunch of damage. And if they try to get away, they're now in range of my Garrothar, and I can hit them with Radiant, and I can finish them off. Rattle Cage is obviously a good set for this, like I said, because you can get rid of entropy on your bar, and you could fit all of this. You know, if you're running Rattle Cage, you could take entropy off, and you could put your Unstable Core on your back bar, and then you could still have this entire combo, and then it would still be very powerful. Now, that's why I'm trying to say, your jab tooltip doesn't matter, because what a Templar has is basically what a Magicka DK wishes he could have. You have great burst healing with Breath of Life. You have access to all of these dots very similar dots that a DK does. And then you also have access to Radiant Destruction, which is just crazy burst damage, or crazy execute. A Magicka Templar currently is a better form of what a Magicka DK should be, in my opinion. You have access to just as many dots, your healing's better, you can purge all dots, and you have a better burst combo, and you have all this great support play. So I would tell most new players, if you were to choose a class between a Templar and a Magicka DK, choose a Templar. Templar is better right now currently in an open world situation. I'm not saying they're better in a duel. Those two classes dueling is the most pain in the ass duel in the game, in my opinion. But yeah. Now, as far as front bar ultimates go, I'm currently running Soul Assault. It works out very well with this class. I hit with a bunch of dots. I top link charge. They try to run away. I hit him with a Soul Assault. What Soul Assault does very well is it dishes out a ton of damage, and it also enemies affected by this ability are revealed for 2 seconds and may not enter stealth or invisibility. So as a Nightblade, you can cloak, but not for 2 seconds. So I use this skill basically as an execute. So if I drop him half health, I hit him with a Soul Assault. For 2 seconds, they cannot cloak. And so most Nightblades, they try to dodge roll away. They can't escape via dodge roll. If they don't block this, it's going to kill them. And now they can block it. I don't have a CC that goes through blocks. So most good Nightblades know to block, they know to heal, and then after 2 seconds they can cloak. But there's a lot of not so good Nightblades that this just destroys. It catches them so fast and off guard, they can't recover. Now, you can run Meteor, you can run Bats. Bats are very good for an AoE. You can combine that with your Garrothar. That's very useful. Nova might be more useful next patch. Obviously, you can fit Sword and Shield, and you can run a Destro ulti. Those are very good. You can run a Barrier, and you can run one of the best heals in the game, which is Rite of Passage. Healing ulti is very powerful right now, and they're adjusting it. This is too strong, and they're nerfing it a little bit next patch. So, very, very strong ultimate that's getting adjusted. So, trying to talk through everything else that I have for this class. Let's see if I have my ultimate yet. I'm going to build my ultimate really quick. I'll show you my combination. And yeah, then I'll leave it at that. But this is a very strong class. If you want to spec in and you want to be kind of a tanky healer, I don't believe tanks are very strong in PvP. Unless you're doing other things. If you're guarding people, if you're healing other people, if people see a tank, they can avoid them. But as a tanky Templar, if you avoid me, I can just Breath of Life and I can keep people healed to full. And in the next patch, let's say our skeleton here is our buddy, and if he's getting damage taken, I can be right here and I can heal him if I'm looking at him, and I know he's getting focused. And if you're not going to focus me because I'm a tank, I can heal my buddy and I can keep him healed to full and keep him alive and in the fight. So if you're going to be a tanky Templar is definitely the best way to go, in my opinion. But that's not the only way to play it. You could also be a healer. Templars make the strongest healers in the game. They're very good DPS classes in PvE. Radiant is great for burst damage. Purifying Light is great for burst damage. Unstable Core. All this stuff is just amazing for a Templar. So how I run my Templar and how I try to really time up my burst. So, you know, I hit with my Entropy, I hit with my Vampire's Bane, I hit with my Purifying Light, and then I'll Soul Assault, or we'll drop my Meteor, or I'll Toppling Charge in, and I'll get jabbing. And then when all that explodes at the exact same time, if they're not in execute, if they're in execute range, it's just Radiant Destruction, and then they're dead. We're very tanky with Breath of Life and with Purify and our Rune. Yeah, so that's going to be the end of the video. Obviously, they're adjusting how much damage you can block next patch without taking a stamina return. So things like Amber Plasm is going to be very strong, and using that with Mistform to get our stamina back because we won't be able to block cast as much. I think that's going to probably be the way to go for most Templars, or building in stamina recovery, you know, with an enchant. But I think the Amber Plasm 5-piece is definitely one of the strongest in the game. So I would get farming. It's going to be more useful next patch, I think. But that's going to be the end of this video. Hopefully it was informative. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully I didn't mumble too much. But yeah, have a nice day. We'll see you next time.